Hello there kiddies, your Uncle Spurt here, and for the past fortnight I've been cozying up with the fresh new Boox Palma 2, a proper pocket-friendly phone-sized e-reader with a Kindle style screen. There's bugger all SIM support here sadly, so to use it as an actual phone you are 100% reliant on Wi-Fi. So the Palma 2 certainly works best as a secondary device that you slip inside your pocket alongside your smartphone, especially as those e-paper style screens aren't exactly best suited to kicking back with some Netflix, or watching a follically deficient YouTube cockwomble bang on about tech stuff. Not quite so wonderful for gaming either, not that that's stopped me. So this is my full unboxing and review of the Boox Palma 2. Gonna try my absolute best not to call it the Boox Palma like I did in the first 3 bloody takes. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what do you get in that box besides of course the Boox Palma 2? Well, you've got an exceedingly dinky and cute wee quick start guide. And you got yourself a USB-A to Type-C charging cable, but bugger all adapter. And thankfully you can just use your regular smartphone charger to power the Palma 2 back up, even if you've got one of those ruddy iPhones. As long as it's a recent iPhone, not one of those old ones with a crappy lightning bollocks. So first up, the design, which hasn't really changed up much at all for the Boox Palma 2 versus the original e-reader. It's a 6.13 inch display, which in smartphone terms would be pretty compact these days, except for these massively chunky bezels surrounding it. So the Boox Palma 2 actually pretty much the same dimensions as most sort of 6.7, 6.8 inch smartphones. That said, the Palma 2 weighs a mere 170 grams, pretty lightweight, certainly comfortable to wield one-handed for the foreseeable. As for the back end, well, this is presumably once again made from plastic, but it's got this lovely textured finish. It feels rather nice and also helps with a grip when you are just clutching it one-handed. And you've got a choice of 2 colours with the Palma 2, either black or white, which I suppose is rather apt, although I would like to see some brighter models eventually. Unlike the original Palma, it's pretty rugged. You don't really need a case for this thing. I've literally just been chucking it in my bag or squeezing it into my pocket alongside my smartphone, and so far, touch wood, not a single scratch or scuff that I can see. And the Palma 2, like the original, is once again water repellent, so good news if you live somewhere a bit moist like Blighty. So far, so rather familiar for the Palma 2, but one feature that has been upgraded for this sequel is the power button, which now features a built-in fingerprint sensor. This is a wee bit awkward to use as the power button's wedged all the way up near the top end of the device, but reasonably responsive, seems to do the job. And saves you having to constantly poke in your pin, which for lazy gits like me is certainly a massive upgrade. Now on the software side, the Boox Palma 2 is running old Android 13, and it's quite a limited version of Android. There's no apps drawer, for instance, so all the apps you install just get slapped right there on your desktops like a stupid iPhone. And naturally you have quite limited customization as well, because you can't really put a proper wallpaper or anything on there. Best you can manage is a bit of screensaver action when you hibernate this phone. Not phone, phone-ish type Kindle thing. You know, a small variety of images that you can choose from, which you can download from the cloud. Otherwise you can slap your own on there as well if you prefer. But you do have full gesture navigation here, so you can swipe up from the bottom to go back to your desktops, and when you're in an app, you can swipe from the side in order to go back. And things do take a little while to tick through. The performance isn't exactly the best, that's for sure. Sometimes you're hanging around for a while for things to happen. And likewise, don't expect your gestures to work 100% of the time first time. But hey, you got full Play Store access here on the Boox Palma 2, so you can download all of your favourite apps and games even. Yes, even a bit of Genshin Impact, which I'm absolutely not going to do because that's just silly. I mean, it would literally just be a slideshow completely unplayable. You get 128 gigs of storage for all of your apps and books and media and other bits, and that is expandable via micro SD memory card as well. Oh, As for when this thing will finally get a bit of Android 14 action, well, God only knows, but at least you're guaranteed at least a couple of years of firmware updates. And yes, as mentioned, there is bugger all cellular connectivity here. You are basically limited to a bit of hotspot and tethering, which you can do off your phone, of course. Otherwise, you'll have to slap it on a Wi-Fi network. Now, you may have noticed over here on the left edge of the Palma 2, you've got a bonus button. This is a shortcut button. And I've got this set up so a double push of it will refresh the display, and a long press of it will boot up the old Kindle app. And you can customize what this does by heading to the Smart Buttons section of the settings. As you can see there, you can choose from a wide variety of options. So pretty handy for loading your favorite apps, otherwise just there's functions that you find you do endlessly. You can also swipe your finger up and down the left edge of the display to raise or lower the volume with no on-screen indicator, which is slightly annoying, and on the right side to scale that brightness up and down. Otherwise, a swipe from the top right edge brings up the control center, so you can again piddle around with the screen brightness and the color temperature. And you can also, theoretically at least, configure what the volume rocker does for individual apps, including the Kindle app, where I've set it so poking the volume buttons will turn the pages. Unfortunately, this has proven about as useful as piranha-proof pants because it doesn't bloody work. As usual, the Palma 2 supports a wide variety of file formats, everything from EPUB to CBZs. Whatever you got, chances are the Palma 2 won't absolutely soil its drawers in terror when you load it onto this thing. As for the screen, well, it's the same e-ink Carter 1200 display as the original Palma model. Again, a 6.13 incher with a 1648 by 824 pixel resolution. That's 300 pixels per inch. It's perfectly crisp for reading, especially if you like the text nice and tiny. It's also good for web browsing, etc. Unfortunately, that elongated aspect ratio not well suited to some books and documents, but at least you can pinch to zoom if you need to get in a bit closer. It's not the most responsive, unfortunately, so it can be a little bit awkward. Ah, bollocks. And similarly, with graphic novels and comics, again, everything's a bit squished in there. I do occasionally struggle to read some of the smaller text and actually see what's going on in the tinier panels. Not to mention the fact that, of course, obviously it's a monochrome display, no color whatsoever. And the contrast is pretty good for an e-paper screen, but again, not quite as crispy as an OLED panel. So in a moodier fare, you might struggle to see what is actually going on. But the Palma 2 does sport a light sensor, so it can automatically scale the brightness up and down to match your surroundings and suit your ambience. I found that mostly this works absolutely fine. I don't have to manually tweak the brightness too often, although it's quick and easy to do so if you need to. The brightness does scale rather high, and then you've got that matte finish to the display as well, which helps to counter any naughty reflective glare. So you can comfortably have a read of your book out in the sunshine, and I know this because I actually hopped on a plane and left Blighty and tested it out abroad. As for the refresh, well, again, you can customize this depending on which app you're in. Got 4 different options, as you can see there. You've got HD, which is great if you want a bit of sharp text and minimal ghosting. Balanced is pretty good for reading, so the likes of the Kindle app where you just occasionally flipping a page, doesn't have to refresh very often. You got fast, which is actually pretty good for web browsing and other apps like this where you're scrolling about the place. As you can see there, pretty smooth finish and minimal ghosting. And then you've got your ultra fast, which is ideal for a bit of video and gaming if you're dumb enough to do that. I mean, to be fair, in a pinch, if your smartphone's dead and you're desperate to watch a bit of YouTube, you need a bit of Uncle Spurt in your life, well, it'll do the job. Well, one thing's for sure, you certainly can't accuse Samsung of being a bunch of lazy torangs when it comes to churning out new smartphones. As well as unveiling their flagship S-series smartphones and a pair of bendy blowers every year, they also pump out a whole heap of more wallet-friendly handsets. So as you can see, it's not an absolute slideshow or anything. The visuals are, reasonably fluid. The fact that you can actually watch videos on an e-paper display at all is kind of bonkers. Of course, the sound is merely spaffed out of these bottom-mounted speakers. You don't get a proper stereo speaker setup, but you do have Bluetooth support as well. I'm very much enjoying, though, how I'm apparently perpetually trapped in YouTube now. The gestures just aren't working anymore. One quick restart later, but either your Bluetooth support, very handy for chilling with an audiobook, a podcast, whatever, if you can't be asked to read on the dinky display anymore. As for the performance, well, the original Palma was powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 662. Apparently that's been upgraded here to another Snapdragon, but I can't find any clarification on exactly which model is stuffed in here. All I know is I'm about to try and play Call of Duty on the bloody thing, which seems ridiculous considering the UI is pretty stuttery at times. Let's give it a go. Can't even tell which guys are my own dudes and which are the enemy. Can't even see the enemy. Oh, is he? Oh my god, I killed somebody! Jeez, is he good? Bad? I'm gonna assume bad. Oh, not a good time to reload. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh crap. Wow, this is just embarrassing for these guys. Here's me thinking I'd be a liability. I'm absolutely running away with this. MVP, baby. Oh my god, this is insane. What is actually happening? Okay, I certainly was not expecting that. That's for damn sure. We absolutely ran away with that. Now, I wasn't MVP, but I was the second best rated on our team, playing on a goddamn Kindle effectively. I'll tell you what though, just one match of Call of Duty later and the Boox Palma 2 starting to get rather toasty up towards that top end, which isn't too surprising. I mean, it's designed to read books and maybe the occasional website, or not, you know, run around blowing off strangers' kneecaps in online death matches. As for the battery life, well, you've got a 3950 mAh battery crammed inside of that chassis. Pretty decent size overall. And of course, playing Call of Duty did sap that battery a wee bit, but the good news is if you are just reading lots and lots of books, well, the battery drains a lot slower. I typically found I got around sort of 50 hours of reading action on this thing, with the occasional bit of web browsing and a bit of Audible and stuff slapped in there as well, before that battery ran dry. And last up, yes, the Palma 2 does have a camera slapped on that back end as well. It's a 16 meg shooter, although it's primarily there so you can scan documents. Basically, it's certainly not designed for snapping casual pics of your cats, kids, whatever. And no, there's no selfie cam on the Boox Palma 2, but frankly, even the rear camera is kind of superfluous to requirements, so a selfie cam would just be taking the piss. And there you have it, my lovelies. That's what I reckon of the Boox Palma 2. A pleasingly pocket-sized e-reader, which is ideal if you blaze through loads of Kindle books on your commute and stuff. You don't want to be carrying around bags or anything. Slip it in your pocket, away you go. And because it's full Android, you can run other apps on it as well, the likes of Audible, etc. The file format support is just fantastic as always. Just a shame that that display is so elongated. If it was a more square display like a Kindle, it would be better suited for, you know, reading graphic novels, comics, and other books that aren't just Kindle stuff. And yes, in an absolute pinch, you can watch your Uncle Spurt reviewing tech on this thing if you absolutely must. But anyway, that's what I reckon. Be great to your thoughts on the Palma 2 down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. And have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone. Love you.